Mr. Farid, who is the country director for Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives from the World Bank. And for this particular mock session, we have Kamranji with us, who will take, that place. We have the official rapporteur, Ms. Anita Nirola, who is the Joint Secretary, with the NDRF. And then we have a bit of a context setting, presentation. And so Mr. Kamran Akbar from the World Bank, will be making, the context setting presentation. And then we have the paper, presentation by Mr. Anil Pokhral, who is the Chief Executive of the NDRF. And so we will, start this session. And so, on behalf of the chair, Kamranji, would you like to say a few things? Now you have to wear two hats. So the chair and the context setter. Please.
Well, at the moment I'm not speaking on behalf of the chair, but just a person who has remained involved with housing reconstruction. One of the activities that we supported was structural integrity and damage assessment of schools, and that is something which is very close to our heart, and that is something we'll be looking at today in our discussions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And so, the World Bank Country Director will join us, at the main session. And so what we're going to do now is basically start with the presentation by Mr. Kamran Akbar, setting the context, for the work that we're going to do this morning. Kamran sir, please.
Thank you very much. Well, if you have given 5 minutes extra to Anil Pokhral, then give me 3 minutes extra, definitely.
We'll see.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to present to you is, it's not moving, yeah. Setting this context for this session, I want to show you two pictures. If you look at the picture on the left and picture on the right, the structures are the same. Style of construction is the same, and the extent of the damage is almost the same. But there is only one difference. This was 2005, 8th October, Pakistan earthquake of the same magnitude, and that is 2015 Nepal earthquake, and both are schools. With this, from this picture, you can very well guess that 2005 and 2015 earthquakes had the similar kind of context. The damage was almost the same. The structural damage was almost the same. Extent of the intensity of the earthquake was the same. The context was entirely the same. I'm showing you two more pictures of these schools. If you look at this one, you can see blackboard over there, and on the left, which is of the picture of an image from 12th of October 2015, and this was a girls' college. So that is the context for which on which we are going to talk about structural integrity assessment. Results were different. Damage was same, but the results were different. In Pakistan, out of 87,000 deaths, 19,000 were children who died in these schools, the pictures which I've shown you. Let's go to Nepal. This is an image from a school in Nepal. And we were lucky that it was a Saturday. And schools were not in session. So what happened was that World Bank, with support from GFDRR and Global Program for Safer Schools, carried out a structural and integrity damage assessment of all the destroyed educational buildings in these 14 most affected districts. Let me share with you some data that was the result of that CEDA. All told, 18,332 buildings were surveyed. Almost 30% completely collapsed. Another 30% were damaged. The number of students that were registered in these buildings was over 1 million students. And I would like you to start imagining that if schools were in session, what would have happened? NRA undertook school reconstruction of pretty good progress against a target of 7,353. Almost 600, over 6,000 schools have been reconstructed. Development partners, Asian Development Bank, Government of India, Government of Norway, Saudi Fund, USAID, and JICA helped in this reconstruction. What if April 25, 2015 were not a Saturday? What would have happened? Of all the schools surveyed, which were 5,762 schools, 12,000 were, over 12,000 were were rooms, out of which 9,313 were classrooms. These classrooms had number of students that were registered were 184,778. Even if 50% of them had died under these falling structures, imagine the kind of disaster or human casualties that would have taken place. Another evidence, on 12th of May, Nepal was hit by a 7.3 magnitude earthquake. What happened on that day? And remember, people were under shelters. Deaths in temporary learning centers or buildings in use were 479 students died, and 45 teachers also lost their lives. So that's the kind of damage or human casualties we are looking at. Situation has not changed. This is Nepal 2021 Melamchi. That colorful building was a school. And look what has happened. What if school was in session? And it's not only the school, look at the road. Again, another school. The landslide, you can see the landslide, and it was saved by a whisker. But then it's not that solutions have not been found. Under an Asian development project, type design have been worked out using local material, which are low cost and use local material from the context, and they are easy to build. So solutions have been found. But the first step for mitigating a risk is understanding the risk, as Anil Vakral has very rightly pointed out. So we need to understand what is the risk associated, especially with schools, health facilities, as well as public buildings. So ladies and gentlemen, it's up to us to shape the future. And I give you Anil Vakral to take you to SIDA, to SIS.
Very good. So thank you very much, Kamran San. You asked for 3 minutes more, and you used only 1 minute more. So that was 6 minutes. So just for your reference. So it wasn't good. But then I think for the discussion that we're going to have, the context is very important. And so the key question you asked was, what if? Right? And so all of us, who were, here on Saturday, on the 25th, I think we all realize, that major question, what if? And so it's scary, it is, very sad, but I guess the whole presentation is on. So after the reconstruction, which is a lot of hard work, we need to build resilience. And so this becomes an ongoing, process. And so for the presentation of our paper, so we have Mr. Anil Pokhrel, who's going to, give us his presentation. And then after that, we'll open it for discussion. But even now, there are people who have joined us on Zoom. We do have, sign language translation, as well as the English to Nepali, translation. So if you have any questions, please use the app, but also make sure that you use the chat on the Zoom to send us your questions, and we'll try to address as many of them in the discussion. But first, let's hear Mr. Pokhrel and his presentation. Please.
You continue, okay. Okay, I'm going to pretend I'm Kamran now. But this is brilliant. This, I know, again, it takes such a time. Orco presentation. No, this is, I wanted to flick into the other, to my presentation. अर्को थियो the camera actually, again, this mock session really adds pressure. Believe me, like I was not expecting a camera here for a mock session.
Around the world are seeing.
Yes, thank you. It's such a pleasure to have somebody moderate the session with the same name. Thank you, Anilji. So we're yet to decide on the front slide, so we'll work on it later. But what I wanted to really start is, reveal my slides now. I'm ला कसरी जाने हो यो अगाडि तल ए ओके फेरि गर्नु पर्यो I must admit again I've not done enough work on this, but let me share my outline thoughts on this. खै हरायो फेरि next. Thank you Anilji. I was one of those Nepalis who missed the earthquake event in 2015. I was in the Philippines in Manila, and I arrived on the 19th day of the earthquake. On the 20th day, as part of the PDNA team that were down in Thading, where this picture was taken, it shows a school building on the back with kids who were lucky on that day. As mentioned by Kamran earlier, we're lucky because, again, had this not been on a Saturday, I guess we could have lost these thousands of children on the same kind of buildings that we lost in Pakistan. We're fortunate that these classrooms, they're not running on that day. You could see the type of the construction and the terrain that we are working on. Classrooms some completely collapsed. You could see some have survived, but the building as such is there. But you could see the desks and all this furniture is gone. Now you could imagine a situation where the kids would have been learning in these classrooms. A small tiny stone could have, again, led to the death of these children on that classroom. But some completely collapsed. This is just the remains of one of those schools, grade 9, only the door remains. Some buildings were completely turned into rubbles and had to be completely demolished. Similar is the story of a lot of other health facilities as well, in addition to schools. I don't have been able to get the pictures, sorry, I'll add those. And also public buildings. Just within Kathmandu, I'm trying to work on getting the details of this Kar Karle, the tax office, where, despite being on a Saturday, so this office where I'm trying to get the pictures of that place, where government officials were buried into the rubble itself. Suman Salike, who works for DUDBC, is helping me on that. But it's building on these experiences, especially in the last 6 years, we've been able to build these schools, these public facilities, and health facilities. A few pictures of what we've been able to really do within a short span of time. Build this almost 6,000 schools that we'd never done in the past. In addition to, again, reconstructing these buildings, there's a tremendous amount of capacities that has been strengthened within Nepali, within engineers, within designers, within contractors, within the private sector, but also particularly within the government sectors to really look at the safety of public buildings, schools in particular, health facilities. And so here's one picture of a recently built school in Kathmandu that has been built. Similar cases of, again, health facilities that were reconstructed within this short span of 6 years. The one on the left is a maternity hospital in Lalitpur, in Kathmandu, and the other one is a Beer hospital. I'm trying to get a couple of more beautiful pictures from out of Kathmandu as well. And so building on these experiences, what as Kamran mentioned, is the experiences done on structural integrity and damage assessment. We're charting out a major initiative that would not only look into the safety of schools and these public buildings in these 14 districts, but also to expand this experience, to assess risk in each and every school buildings, in each and every health facilities and public buildings throughout the country. The idea is to visit each and every building, building by building, and to understand the level of safety of each of these buildings. As you all know, these buildings play a very important role in terms of the resilience of the communities itself. Not only the safety of the children, but also the buildings could be used as refuge in times of disasters. These are places for learnings, but also these are places where we could also disseminate awareness to the community for building resilience. These are also places where we could communicate and contact, especially in terms of spreading our early warning systems and messages, but also use as a planning center to help build community resilience. So these spaces are critically important, and the lessons that we've learned over the last 6 years in terms of retrofitting, in terms of reconstructing schools, it is timely that we replicate into other non-earthquake affected districts in Nepal. We've witnessed, especially within the last 2 years, in multiple missions during the monsoon floods and landslides, that most of these school buildings and public buildings are not able to withstand, forget a moderate size earthquake, but also even minor shakes. These are buildings that could collapse, similar to the ones that we've witnessed either in Pakistan or in Nepal. The approach that we've designed has been honed over the last couple of years, especially in terms of building the questionnaires and the method to undertake these assessments that utilizes structural engineers, but also multiple hazard experts, MIS specialists to go and visit each of these buildings, and a method that uses visual assessments of these buildings. The findings from these risk assessments and these structural integrity assessments would be then used to identify priority buildings and structures that needs to be strengthened either through retrofitting or restructuring. With this structural integrity assessment, we'd be able to identify the investments that are required to undertake to build safety for each of these facilities. It will also help us identify which are the hotspot districts and municipalities that we need to really prioritize. But more importantly, it gives a nationwide picture in terms of understanding the safety and the structural integrity of each of these buildings at a nationwide scale. So in terms of work progress that we've been able to do it so far is to design questionnaires, design systems to help undertake this survey. Much of this work has been done jointly by the National Reconstruction Authority and the World Bank. We've been able to inherit these questionnaires and the design to take this forward. At this stage, we're working on hiring firms, writing up these 2 hours to take up this structural integrity assessment on a nationwide scale. I must admit, I've not been able to really complete this presentation. This is where I am up to so far. But I'd like to stop here and get your feedback in terms of, again, really outlining the remaining part as well as your suggestions for improvement in terms of really focusing on the areas that we need to, that we should not be missing out on this presentation. I'll stop here, Anil sir.
Yeah, please. So thank you very much for presenting the paper. And so what we'll do first is open up the floor, for questions, and then, as before, let's finish the session, and then we'll go into the comments. So again, Zoom, the app, and the mics are available, for questions. So does anybody have a question for the Chief Executive? No? So let me ask a question. So I'm Development Partner X. And so my question is, related to, this concern about our whole public procurement, process. And so as much as you want, safe buildings, and, it's not about resources, but are there, checks and balances that we can put into the procurement, process that would ensure safety of public buildings? Are these issues, discussed, and what might be, some ways that we can make sure that the procurement process doesn't compromise the safety of these buildings.
Let me try answering. I think it was my fault not to see. I've been able to realize that I have not been able to really communicate well that this work that we're actually doing is not about constructing the buildings itself. So this initiative is mainly about understanding the risk of these facilities at a nationwide scale. That'll help us, again, identify which are the buildings that needs to be immediately, urgently demolished, perhaps reconstructed, or that needs retrofitting. Constructing or retrofitting them and the procurement issues that you've highlighted is a subsequent issue for that. But in terms of, again, undertaking this is mainly a survey that is being undertaken that allows a team of experts to go and visit these schools, make assessments from a structural integrity perspective, whether these buildings can withstand if there's any hazards, particularly earthquake, landslides, floods, or lightning or even fire would strike them, and if they're able to, again, whether the children would be safe or not. In terms of the procurement issue that you raised, is really valid. Again, what we've witnessed is, again, through NRA's initiative that never before in the history we've been able to reconstruct 6,000 plus schools in the last 5 years plus. So this is where the learnings from NRA's experiences that was saved up by a lot of support from relevant partners is something that we'd be able to use in terms of, again, reconstructing or retrofitting these schools going forward.
Okay, so any further questions to Anilji on his presentation? And so, just as a reminder, you used only about 7 minutes, so you still have about 8, 9 minutes that you can use, to add thoughts. So, anything? Okay, so let's try to just mock the session, and then we'll go into the presentations. So, if we have gone through the questions. Okay, so we do have a question on Zoom. Harunji, are you online? Let's see, so this is also a good way to test if technology is working. Mr. Harun, if you're online, and if you can unmute yourself, we would like to hear your question. You will try, Gaurav. Oh, I. Okay. So we still cannot hear you. So if you try to unmute yourself, and we'll also try to fix the technology, the unmute, Gordon. Yeah, we still cannot hear you. We can see you, and you're looking good, but we cannot hear you. Okay? So if you unmute yourself, can you try unmuting yourself? No, we still cannot hear you. We'll try, Guru. Okay, so we can now hear you. So go ahead. Anything else? Yeah, so just please repeat your question.
I have two questions. I understand that the slides are being prepared, so this might already be considered by Anilji in his final presentation. So Anilji, please ignore it if it is already considered. The first question is, what's the timeline? Did you hear me?
So what we've done is we've worked out a task force that includes government, non-government agencies as well, particularly the relevant ministries and departments, especially the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Physical Planning and Works, the Department of Urban Design and Building Constructions. They are there as representing the government, but we've also looked at ways of involving stakeholders in terms of, again, in terms of designing these questionnaires, but also implementing it. What we've done is, as a part of the task force, we've also looked into representatives from the municipalities and from local municipalities and the urban municipalities. We've brought in relevant set in terms of designing the task force. That's what we've been able to address it. But as we go forward, we're also planning to conduct series of dialogues and consultations that involves development partners, agencies such as UNICEF, Save the Children, and others who've been a critical partner in terms of school safety. In the past, we have had discussions with UNICEF as how we could be part of, partly together work on reviewing the questionnaires and in terms of further refining it. As we go ahead, we'd be undertaking consultations, inception workshops, but also reflection workshops as we go ahead. In terms of the timeline, this is a major undertaking that needs visiting each and every schools. We have roughly around 2 years timeline to complete the entire assessment of the schools, health facilities, as well as the public buildings.
Okay. Let me just check if there's, I think there's one more question online. Argo? Okay, so good. So last chance for questions from this floor. Okay, so what we'll do is thank you very much, for your participation. But now, to bring this all together, so I would like to, first give an opportunity to the CEO of NRA to say, a few things about, this whole process, as well as, the goal of making our public and social infrastructures, safe. And so once we hear from Mr. Gewali, then over to the chairperson, from the World Bank to give his concluding remarks. So, Mr. Gewali, please.
Thank you very much. The overall presentation certainly is, Anilji is building on that. On the basis of the presentation that he has made and also the context that was set up by Kamranji, actually this shows that what we have in this session that we have actually concluded, I think, and then having the understanding that if it was not the Saturday on the time when the earthquake hit the country, so there would have been the huge level of the human casualty, especially the children. So that would have been the very, very, very sort of this difficult situation that we would have. So that is the understanding that we have. That means it shows that the structural integrity assessment of all the public facilities are to be made. And then we should know the requirement for that, either the investment or the difference of the approaches, how we can really build on the future. Secondly, what lesson that we have learned is also that there are the cost-effective technologies have also already been developed, that we have been able to come up with these remote school designs. That was supported with the Asian Development Bank, and then we did the testing of those in the different sort of the labs outside, and then we have come up with those technologies. That means the cost per unit cost for the school building is really not in the level that we invested in the past, but it will come down. So there are the solutions are there, and then on that basis, on that sort of these technologies, we can make the sort of the working. We can work very easily, and then the less level of the investment that can be made, and then that is possible. And third point is that we also do not have to have the demolish all the buildings if during the time of the reconstruction. We may also be able to have the retrofitting of the school itself, because we have also already come up with the retrofitting sort of the technologies have also been developed, and then that can be utilized, and we have that. So we can also use that, and then so that with the lower level of the cost and the investment that we can go ahead, the structural integrity of all the the public facilities and the social infrastructure that can be made. And for that, and we also have to understand that this, as per the new federal constitution, these tax had been certainly devolved to a certain local government level, but there is a need of a nationwide sort of program that is needed. And then so all the three levels of the government, as well as these communities, can also engage in this process. And then if you see the experiences of the reconstruction, then the school management committees, they themselves were engaged, and then almost around 80% of the schools were rebuilt by the school management committees. And then there was a certain level, the cost that they did, and there was an ownership of the communities and the people as well. So we also have that approach in regards to the process of the construction, and the guidelines have been developed, and then we are already having that sort of framework already in place. So these are the some of the observations that I have, and I think this is the session is really very, very relevant, and then it will be a basis, a major milestone for us to make our social infrastructure and the public buildings safe in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on that note, so I'm going to ask, the CEO of NRA and the Chief Executive of the Resilience Management Team. So if you can come up here, up on the front. And then I'm going to also ask Kamranji, who's chaired this session. So, yeah, so I don't know, we have to choreograph this handover. I don't know what it will look like, but I guess, yeah, so Kamran, if you also, join. So I don't know what will happen. So maybe it's a bouquet or a hard drive or a laptop with all the data. But, I was told that we'll have a scenario function, but we'll choreograph it. And so, please go ahead.
All the documents and the informations, whatever in regards to the SIA and whatever sort of process that we did in the past, that are there, and I would like to hand over this, the information and the document to Anilji, from NRA to NDRF, so that this structural integrity assessment and all the structural integrity in the future, that will be possible. And then I wish all the best, and then with that, I would like to hand over this.
Thank you, Chief Executive Officer in National Reconstruction Authority. This looks small, but the challenge and the opportunity that it together brings to the National Disaster Management is humongous. We would really build upon the years of experiences that has been done by NRA to take this forward in terms of, again, building resilience and in terms of making Nepal a resilient nation by 2030. Thank you so much.
As far as World Bank is concerned, upon request of Government of Nepal, $14 million have been reallocated from NRA to NDRRMA to carry out this exercise, and that is indicative of our commitment and understanding of significance of this activity. While preparing, other development partners also contributed, especially UNICEF, with regards to non-structural elements for this questionnaire. And the last point which I want to make, cost has been referred to. Cost of not taking action probably will be much higher than cost of taking action. And that is something I think we need to keep in view. Because if you look at what I told you about the 2005 Pakistan earthquake, the cost that they had to bear was much, much higher than any, what you can say, financial implications. So thank you very much.
So, okay, so with, that note of, and the final remarks from the World Bank and the chair of this session, so we bring this, session to a close. And so once again, I would like to thank everybody who's attended this, session, but also those who have joined, online. And I hope you had a very fruitful, session this morning. So thank you very much. Okay, so now, any suggestions? So using our process on the slides, if you would like to, contribute any comments, because there's still a, good chunk of time that only you can use. And I hope all of us, appreciate, the need to build resilience, right? And so what would be powerful slides that we can use the rest of the time for? So any suggestions, sir? Just ideas that Anilji can, brainstorm so that the slides.
Actually, in the slides to improve what you can do, maybe whatever this in my remarks that I have also mentioned that you can just come up. You can consult with Yuvraj Paudel. He has have those informations. One is you can come up with a remote school design. How does it look like? And then there is certain type designer like that sort of thing is there, and also they have come up with a certain per unit cost for that. And you can compare that with the RCC structures as well, and then that will be much more or less than the remote school design that has been developed, that has been tested already. That's the one. That will be good to compare on that. And then it shows that whatever investment that we are talking about, the huge number of the schools are there and the public facilities are there, but the cost would be less, or the investment can be less. That's one. And secondly, you can also come up with the retrofitting of these schools. And how much cost that has been incurred for the retrofitting of these schools. I think it is also much more less than the new construction also. That we can go for the retrofitting of the schools and with this SIS, and then that will be much more less in the investment, because that was one of the major concerns from the Ministry of Finance and also of the development partners as well, whether we'll be able to make an investment on that or not. But what Kamranji has just mentioned, that in the last if we are not making the investment for that, and then the requirement of the investment is on the loss as compared to the investment requirement like that. That's the one thing. And secondly, you may also wish to also mention that because this tax of the school is the local government at the moment, but there is a need of a program of the nationwide program to be supported by all the international development partners, federal government, provincial government, and local government come together, because this is the beyond the capacity of the local governments itself to make investment. So that is something that is to be maybe highlighted like that. And another point, and also if we do these SIAs and also start the retrofitting or the reconstruction or the structure integrated of the schools and the other facilities, then it's not only we'll be able to build make those the structure resilient, but also it will give a strong level of this awareness building among the people. Because the schools have been scattered in each of the wards, I think. At least more in one ward, maybe there might be around 10 schools or like that. Yeah, it is in most of the settlements that are schools, and then the people see that, and then they will be having the knowledge out of the RTD districts that the importance of making their homes or the houses resilient or the infrastructure resilient, and it will be a part of the awareness building to the people as well. So that will be a sort of the byproduct, I would like to say. Maybe that is there. And another point, the process and the guideline that has been developed in on the SMC-led reconstruction guideline, the framework that we have also developed in the past, that will also be sort of a basis also for you, for SIS and then the implementation on that also. You may wish also to also make that as well. And one of the major lessons actually, the earthquake does not kill the people, but the unsafe structures does. Yeah. Maybe that's sort of the message, and then we have to have this sort of maybe you may wish to link that as well. Yeah, these are the points that I
country, which basically means at the local level, then at the provincial level, and then at the top of the pyramid is the federal level, and this will dovetail into EMIS. And the way the question has been designed with regards to non-structural elements, I must say preparedness, drills, trainings, all these non-structural, I must say, elements have also been covered in that. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamran sir. Okay, suggestions? Any suggestions? Yeah, please. You have a mic there?
I don't need a mic.
Sure, a mic.
Cameron, can I put one suggestion to you for your own presentation?
Yeah.
Your whole presentation is about impact. It's very much about the what if. And there's just a number of kids that might have been hurt or killed. It's the same font size and shape as all of the other fonts with these number that keeps coming out. So just make that one font size up and hold something to make it stand out. Anil, we still got to work on your presentation. Again, one of the trifles tasks done so far, a little misleading. 5 title from what? So we need to play with that title. And the slide before was reconstructed schools, and then we had pictures of reconstructed schools, but then we had pictures of reconstructed health facilities, hospitals, and so on and so forth, underneath the same type of structure. So that needs to be a little bit played. And you mentioned the number 6,000, and I think that number needs to come up in one of the slides on the reconstructed schools, showing the total of 6,000 plus schools reconstructed. It's nice to have the visuals. I like the style of the change of style that they're using photograph and you're doing the talking, which is good. But that number is quite important. If you put that in there somewhere on one of those slides, that would be of value.
Good. Thank you. Oru, any suggestions? So I just wanted to reiterate the grid, because acronyms are not very useful in conferences. So the green, resilient, inclusive development, and if the R could stand out, because the way forward, one of the way forward is the grid framework. So I think just to highlight the grid framework might be useful also. Well,
one thing, as we yesterday that we agree on, maybe the title of the presentation, but those NDRF, maybe moving towards resilience,
moving towards resilience.
That's ensuring resilience for social infrastructures and public buildings. That will be the title for this session. Moving towards resilience / ensuring resilience for social infrastructures and public buildings. That would be the title. And for the first session again, moving towards resilience, Nepal disaster resilience framework. And the Nepal disaster resilience framework. So this will having the continuity of moving towards resilience, and we don't have to say the reconstruction to resilience because it's already understood. And then this session will be ensuring resilience for social and public buildings. The ensuring means it's the financing as well as all other sort of technical parts of the legal, all the sort of the framework. And the first one, I think we'll ask to the secretary also to rephrase the name of the topics of the session.
Good. So only you got that, Yeah. So inner titles. Yeah, please. Good. So I guess the basic, point for all of us is that the next time disaster strikes, we may not be in our, homes. We may very well be in a public building, and let's be, sure that they are safe. I guess that's the message that we need to, get across, because some people are wishful that I've earthquake-proof my home, so I'm safe. You may not be in home when it happens. So I think, the focus on public and, public buildings is very critical. So shall we end it? So let me thank you all for joining this mock session. So we had two, sessions in a row, and then, I think we've done quite a good job. Okay, sir, up now. Anil?
Thank you, everyone. Again, these are super helpful comments. Again, while I was kind of doing the readings and background studies, I will take the onus of again improving it over by tomorrow, actually, and then share it with most of you all. What I also realized while doing this discussion is one thing that I really kind of forgot was to really build on the NDRF presentation that I prepared earlier, said earlier. I think that element was missing that I kind of realized it. And so how this element is going to help build resilience. So that is something that I felt that I was missing. The second thing was also, again, we could also now, again, through perhaps one little bullet, I could also say that, again, once this is done, we'll be able to then link it up with also instruments such as disaster risk financing, ensuring all these school buildings in the country. That's an area that we're already actually working on with the World Bank technical support to identify risk finance insurance instruments, especially targeting critical infrastructures and school sectors. So that's something that I also wanted to be adding into these slides.
Mike.
That the, what we did in the pen drive, this transfer handing over like that, yeah, you may also wish to have one bullet on that, that this around $14 million has already been insured from the bank for making the SIA, and then we are under the process of this like that.
Good. And so on the technical, so you go to Zoom ko thik थियो, खाली एउटा स्पिकर चाहिन्छ कि त्यो Zoom को जुन ल्यापटपमा चाहिँ आयो हैन, हाम्रो स्पिकरमा चाहिँ आएन.
One thing, actually in the technical part, in this, I would like to mention in the logistic and all this, the connection, this all. Even with the effort that you did the yesterday and the today maybe, but the connectivity is not good. It is again failing. यो एकदमै यो भएन जस्तो अब एकजनाले त्यहाँ जस्तो अब त्यसको अर्थ जसले बाहिरबाट कनेक्सन गरेर चाहिँ क्वेसन गर्न चाहनुभयो उहाँको आवाज पनि आएन अनुहार मात्रै आयो त्यसको अर्थ देयर इज समथिङ रङ है र सँगसँगै भोलि त तपाईको जो इन्टरनेसनल लेभलबाट चाहिँ तपाईको भिडियो म्यासेज अरु कुराहरु चाहिँ प्रेजेन्ट गर्ने छ त्यो गर्दाखेरि त यसले त फेल हुन्छ यो त्यसैले यो सबैभन्दा डिसस्याटिस्फ्याक्सनको यो अहिलेको उसमा के हो भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो यो जुन टेक्नोलोजी that is being used and this that you are doing, it's completely failed, and then I'm not satisfied with this. So
you will check गरौँ अनि फेरि
yesterday was also the completely lost, and the today is not working, and that means you are again having the difficulties, or you are not fixing the problems. है तपाईले त्यो गर्नै भएको छैन आवाजै आएन अब त्यो गरेर आवाज नआउनुको कारण के त्यहाँ चाहिँ आएन भन्नुको अर्थ त त्यसको त बिग्रेको छ त्यसैले तपाईहरुको यो अब यो कसरी चाहिँ तपाईहरु गर्नु चाहिँ मलाई सबैभन्दा ठूलो चिन्ताको विषय यो होल कन्फरेन्समा अरु चाहिँ यो सबै जाँचला एभ्रीथिङ अदर्स विल गो इन द राइट ट्र्याक बट आई एम रियली वरिड in the connectivity and of this the virtual sort of the connectivity to the people and then the outside. So how it would work? We have to have more sort of this ensuring on that. Kamranji, we have to work on this, and then seriously, it is really a very serious problem for us.
The technical connectivity.
Technical connectivity.
You know, for
actually,
people joining
again today,
online,
the connectivity didn't work.
ठिक छ.
अनि ठीक छ कि तर के छ भने नि हैन आज चाहिँ बाहिरबाट चाहिँ कनेक्सन भएको मान्छेहरुको कनेक्टिभिटी चाहिँ आज चाहिँ नहुने खालको कुरा हो उहाँहरुलाई भने तर हैन ठीक छ कि तर एकजना मान्छे who have been connected, he has been seen but the sound has not been heard. And जेसुकै होस्, I think whoever are responsible, the point is that everything has to be in place. It's fine, but the thing is that everything has to be in place. That is the point here. Everything has to be in place. Whether the hotels are whoever, but
किनभने टेक्नोलोजी फेरि यो कन्फरेन्स चाहिँ टेक्नोलोजी एकदम डिपेन्डेन्ट छ र त्यो हाइब्रिड भएको कारणले र म्याक्सिमम पार्टिसिपेन्ट चाहिँ अनलाइन हुने भएकोले पनि एकदम क्रिटिकल छ नि हुन्छ सो एकपल्ट अर्गनाइजेसनमा बसेर गरौँला ओके सो थ्याङ्क यू भेरी मच सो आई थिङ्क वी डन बोथ द सेसन्स एन्ड वी क्यान ब्रेक त्यो हायटमै गर्नुपर्छ यहाँ गएर हुन्छ Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Anil. Ashwin sir. Thank you very much. Anita sir. Good. त्यसैले यो इमेलले होला अहिले हाम्रो बिचमा एउटा सुरु गरौँ अनि बिचमा कहीँ जुमै बस्नु पर्यो भने पनि गर्छ जस्तै ट्युजडे तपाईँले सेयर गर्नु राम्रो हाम्रो त धेरै 6-7 दिनको युज भयो अनि अर्को एउटा त्यो हाम्रो कसरी कोरियोग्राफ गर्ने अब मैले अहिले है खालि भनेकोले मात्रै ह्यान्ड ओभर नि अब त्यो कोरियोग्राफै गर्नुपर्छ अब हार्ड डिस्क दिने हो कि त्यो राम्रो हुन्छ के ह्यान्ड ओभर गर्ने तर त्यहाँको सिम्बोलिजम एकदम हाई हुन्छ नि डाटा ह्यान्ड ओभर एउटा मुभ गर्नु पर्यो हार्ड डिस्क अथवा केही त्यसको पनि सिम्बोलिक छ नि राम्रो छ नि त्यो ह्यान्ड ओभर अस्ति हामी गुड नोट गरिहाल्छ बिफोर आफ्टर त छैन मतलब रिकन्स्ट्रक्सन भएको तर रेजिडेन्ट नभएकोले फेरि मेसेज त के जानु पऱ्यो इन्स्योरिङ भन्ने शब्द त मेरो लागि हो नि त्यो बिल्डिङको मेरोबाट चाहिँ सेफ मिटिङ होला त्यसमा मिटिङ अस्पतालमै कोभिड
तिमीले कागज दिए त्यो एकपल्ट ब्रिफ गर्नु बसेर कुरा गरौँ फेरि अनि 10-11 साढे 3
Hello. 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 Testing. Hello. 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 Sound. Hello. 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 Mic testing.